I thoroughly agree with you that the window is open for them to win it this year because they're better than most people thought, and because the rest of the conference is probably not as good as people thought.
Undefeated Tuesday morning here on Birds 365. It'll stay that way until the Eagles lose a game, which did not happen Sunday in Arizona. And here to help break down what went down Sunday and look ahead to the Cowboys. He and I have talked Eagles Cowboys for a pretty long period of time here in town. The host of the Eagles pregame show, their flagship station, WIP, and across our entire broadcast outlet. And of course, host on weekends on WIP with poor schmucks like me. He does some heavy lifting. I got to give him credit for it. Glen Macnow here with us on 94 WIP. G-Mac, the cast of thousands you have on the pregame show, I know a little less for road games than home games. Yeah. Was I the only putz this week that you worked with that picked the Arizona Cardinals to pull the upset?
You were. There were some, like myself, who picked a close game and said the Eagles wouldn't cover. I'll take that win. But more, Jody and John picked the Eagles to win it rather easily. You were the only one who went to your extreme. So, well, there you go.
Yeah, I picked the Eagles to win 5 times, Glenn, and I think I'm 1-4 versus the spread. So I picked them. It's unbelievable. When I think it's going to be a close game, well, it doesn't turn out to be a close game.
What's more important, John, your bank account or them going to the Super Bowl?
My bank account. There's no question about that. I'm not. Hey, Super Bowl's going on anyway. But I'm not an Eagles fan per se. But I take my objectivity seriously. But
sure.
This team is. I do. Since you went there, I'll go a little bit further. I find it interesting the nitpicking with this team. I find two parts. There's only one 5-0 team in the NFL, so that's pretty good contextually. I still hear that Jonathan Gannon's not aggressive enough, let Arizona back in the game. That's one. And now I'm hearing Jalen Hurts doesn't throw passing touchdowns. Who cares, Glen Macnow? I mean, winning football is winning football.
Let's start with the second one first, which is Jalen Hurts is – I don't know, top half dozen offensive weapon in the NFL this year. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Combine everything he does. I don't take away his running away from his passing. Okay, he doesn't pass for touchdowns, but he could theoretically set a record for touchdown runs by an NFL quarterback. I'll take those 2 quarterback sneaks and count those. Thank you very much.
Yep.
His game can still improve. So I don't know if it's nitpicking or it's, hey, this guy's got even more of an upside. I'm looking forward to that. I'll say that with him. I love where he is now. And I think he can get better. As far as Jonathan Gannon goes, the defense kind of let down in the second half on Sunday. Okay, I'm not going to, look at what they did to the Vikings. Look at what they did to Washington. They were great. The defense didn't have its best game. I'm going to look at the whole 5 games and say it's the top defense in the league. I'll nitpick one thing, and I've been nitpicking this thing since last year, and it hasn't bitten them yet, but it could. Their special teams, by and large, is awful. And
that was Aaron Cephas's best game, Glenn.
He's been okay this year. He's been fine. Last year, you remember how he finished down the stretch was terrible. Jake Elliott's great. Hey, Dicker the kicker was fine. Their coverage is not good, and their return game is just abysmally bad. Again, it hasn't bitten them to the point where they've lost a game, but they muffed another punt the other day.
Yeah, I know where Johnny's coming from.
That should have been a penalty, though.
Okay,
you got to give.
But you got to catch the ball.
You're right.
I know where John's coming from with his question because I was on WIP last night and took up legal calls. And again, Jonathan, we didn't get to the quarterback. Why isn't getting more aggressive? They give up 17 points, all right? And Kyler Murray is one of the more exciting weapons in the NFL. Might not be the best, but he brings a lot of excitement. And he's difficult to defend. They gave up 17 points. That's not bad. Just because it didn't include 8 sacks like they had previously against Carson Wentz, because it didn't include 5 turnovers like it did the week before against Jacksonville. He gets compared to himself, and he gets knocked down a couple of pegs because his defense, God forbid, gave up 17 points.
You know what I think some of it is? Because, you and I, we talk to fans all the time, right? We talk to callers all the time. I honestly do think there's a little bit of this must be too good to be true, so I got to find what's not working because I can't believe it's all that good. I really do. I believe there's some fans, a contingent of the fan base in every sport. I mean, we see it with the Phillies going well in baseball that is always so afraid, like, well, this is too good to be true. Let me find what's not working. I thought that disappeared a bit after they actually won a Super Bowl, right? You're allowed to be confident. It can work out for us. But, yeah, we'll get that. And, Jody, I'm telling you, and John, the percentage of those callers versus the percentage of the public overall is very different. People call because they call because they're motivated. They call because they're upset. I don't think it matches up entirely with the fan base.
No, I agree with that. Same thing with social media, Glenn. Because when people go on Twitter, it's the people that want to complain. The extremes.
So you don't get a lot of people go on Twitter like, "Hey, so far this game's not bad." I mean, that's
that's
not
true.
what people are tweeting.
And by the way, because I saw a ton of Eagles fans out there traveling back and forth, they were very competent. So the vast majority are very competent in this team. They should be. When I do look at this team and you bring up the special teams, you're not supposed to look ahead. Nick Sirianni will kill me for looking ahead, but this is Dallas week. Exactly. This is Dallas week. If they get by Dallas, you look at their schedule. I mean, we could be talking 10-0. Matt Rule just got fired in Carolina. Mm-hmm. Already, you're talking about my bank account. You get all the odds. Who's the next coach going to be in Carolina? Sean Payton's the obvious number one. David Tepper likes to make splashes. He probably is. Number 3, Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator. Yeah.
Really?
That's how quickly it goes in this league. You're the only undefeated team. If you're 10-0, where I'm getting with this, Glenn, is there a sense of urgency? This championship window is open. Let's be honest. There's nobody great in the NFC. This championship window is open. And if the Eagles are successful, the people are complaining about Jonathan Gannon. They're not going to have to worry about it. He's going to be a head coach. Shane Steichen might be a head coach. And we saw what happened to Doug Peterson when he lost his top assistants. Even Andy Reid on those legendary coaching staffs, that his first coaching staff is legendary. When he started losing some guys, it became more difficult.
Boy, you really are worried about something that's a real theoretical.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back up in what you were saying and say I'm going to start with this point. I thoroughly agree with you that the window is open for them to win it this year because they're better than most people thought and because the rest of the conference is probably not as good as people thought. I heard Donovan McNabb on WIP last week say, the thing about the Eagles is they're probably a year away. And I'm thinking, a year away from what?
Yeah.
A year away from us sweeping up the confetti.
By the way, Donovan was in the locker room. Donovan lives out there, obviously. He was in the locker room doing his glad handing with Jalen Hurts after the game and Nick Sirianni. I don't think he was telling them they were a year away.
I imagine he wasn't.
Might have mentioned it on WIP. Don't think he said it in the locker room.
Hey,
by the Eagles.
Right. Hey, you guys, slow your horses. No, I don't think so. So I absolutely think it's there. I think we also will admit, if we're being honest, that the NFC is right now the junior conference, and the team you play from the AFC will probably be favored in the Super Bowl. But we've been there before, and they won it last time.
That's your Buffalo Bills, by the way. Let's be honest.
Probably, it is right now, and we'll see how that plays out. And as you were referring, the upcoming schedule with Pittsburgh and Indy and Carolina, right? It's like, gosh, they got some easy games coming up. If you win, your coaches get poached, and it is a big challenge, as we saw with Andy Reid, with Doug Peterson, to replace those coaches. John, can I worry about that after I pick the confetti out of my my balding head?
I only bring it up because Matt Rule got fired in season, so all of a sudden it starts early.
Yeah,
and more teams I think are going to start going this way to get the head start because let's be honest, Steve Wilkes got the interim tag down there, but I said David Tepper is going to try to make a splash. And
Sure.
if he can't get Sean Payton, maybe it's the next in offensive mind. There's always those hot candidates, the Hansel candidates. If you're a Zoolander fan, he's so hot. There's always that hot candidate. All of a sudden, because of what the Eagles are doing, and because Nick Sirianni handed the play calling over to Shane Steichen, and the development of Jalen Hurts, all of a sudden, Shane Steichen's the it guy. Now he's got to finish. This team can't fall apart. But I look at the schedule, Glenn, that they can't fall apart. They're a good football team.
Yeah. They can't miss at this point, as you said, you look at the schedule, they can't miss the playoffs. Dallas with one loss is a surprise to me. We'll see where they head. Their defense is terrific. I'm very impressed by Dallas's defense. The backup Cooper Rush should come in and held the fort down. I'm curious to see where that moves forward. But yeah, I mean, at minimum, barring catastrophic injury or collapse, the Eagles are what, 12-5?
I would think minimum.
I would say
I don't know how you get the 5 losses.
Yeah.
Other than attrition, significant injury attrition, I don't know how you get the 5 losses.
And injury worries me a little bit. I'm sorry, Jody. Injury worries me a little bit just because of what's happening with the offensive line, right? Is Mailata going to come back? What's the story with Kelsey? They got a lot of hurts on the offensive line. And I don't mean Jalen Hurts. They have a lot of, injuries on the offensive line. That's the only thing, Jody, I think could stop it.
And another thing that I think fans and some media members have been nitpicking, and I don't think people are contextualizing it correctly. Oh, the Eagles don't score points in the second half. Oh, they're great in the first half, and that completely takes out the way the game is going in the conversation. You don't restart it, right? Put the first half points aside and pick it up at 0-0 at half. That's not the way they play in the National Football League. So are people blatantly overstating the worries about the Eagles are a great second quarter team, but those other 3 quarters I don't know about. It's the score at the end of 60 minutes that counts, right, McMahon?
Last time I looked at the standings in my Philadelphia Inquirer, it was not divided by how many points you scored each quarter. So, yes. Yeah. And games are in content. The Minnesota game, they clearly took their foot off the pedal. That's okay. You had the lead. There are so many things that you can worry about. That does not make my top 1,000.
No sense of urgency. Human nature. If you're not being threatened, you're going to take your foot off the gas a little bit. But I think if you go back to week 1, Glenn, they had that textbook 4-minute offense drive to close out the game. Drained the clock, walked off the field. They had the first 9-minute offense in recorded history. If they punch in that touchdown, that is one of the great drives in recent NFL history. They won 17 plays. They took 8 minutes off the clock. Now they had to settle for the field goal, and Arizona had an opportunity. So it's not going to be spun that way. But that's pretty impressive to go 17 plays in a tie game. And they wanted to serve these two masters. They wanted to drain the clock. They wanted Arizona to use their timeouts. They accomplished that, but they didn't punch it in the end zone. So, I mean, there's room for improvement, but it's still pretty impressive.
It's all very impressive. I'm telling you, I covered my only 2 concerns with this team is the potential for injury and what we're seeing with the offensive line a little bit. Want to see how, where's Mailata, and the special teams, particularly the return game. Other than that, baby, let's book passage to Arizona in February.
All right. You mentioned the fact that it's the Cowboys coming up on Sunday, and you and I have had many a Cowboy bet over the years and had a lot of fun with that.
Who's got Cooper Rush this week?
I got my legs shaved one time off of losing a bet there.
I should have had my legs shaved because I had to wear a dress when the Eagles beat the Cowboys. And there is still a black and white photo somewhere in this house of me in that big, ugly blue dress that I wore. Had nice beads, though, for that dress that my wife purchased for me. Yeah, we don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Cowboys yet. We know that Cooper Rush is 4-0. This past week, he needed to complete all of 10 passes for the Cowboys to win because their defense was so dominant. They're getting short fields and touchdowns off defense and the like. He hasn't wowed anybody.
No.
But he's a winner.
Yeah.
And he's won 4 straight games. Is there any question that if Dak is healthy enough to go, that he's the quarterback on Sunday? We know the Cowboys will probably play, much to the chagrin of Jerry Jones. I think the coaching staff is smart enough to go down Nick Sirianni's road of competitive advantage. We don't want to tell anybody anything until we have to tell them. There's no chance of Cooper Rush that Dak Prescott's going to be holding a clipboard on the sideline Sunday, is there?
Not logically. I mean, yeah, Dak Prescott is the quarterback who is their future, who they paid all that money, who has shown over time that he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Cooper Rush, thank you very much. Go sit down. We'll talk to you later. But it is Jerry Jones, so there's always that, he's got to do it his way, smarter than everybody. So he's tougher to predict than most people. Logically, Jody, everything you said makes a ton of sense. If you can read Jerry Jones's mind on that, let me know.
I'm not as concerned about the Cowboys offense as the Cowboys defense.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn. And Dan Quinn is one of the better defensive coordinators in this league. Micah Parsons, I'm not going to say he's better than Aaron Donald just yet, but I think he's number 2 in the world when it comes to defensive players. He's just unbelievable. And I didn't see this coming. Penn State kid, a lot of people projected him to be an all-ball linebacker, and they, kind of fell on it because of injuries. They were forced. Marcus Lawrence got hurt. Randy Gregory got hurt, and all of a sudden the Cowboys didn't have a pass rush last year, and they said, well, let's see if he can go get the quarterback, and he can get the quarterback. He is a spectacular player. Is this going to be the biggest test for the offense this year?
Far and away. Far and away. Yeah. Well, and he specifically, I haven't looked down the road at every defense they face, but I agree with you. I mean, you say he's the second best defensive player in the league. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and there's really nothing I can argue with that says he's not, if not better than Aaron Donald right now. And I watched him last week, and he can destroy a game. He's that Lawrence Taylor type who can just by himself make an offense say, okay, whatever our game plan is, it has to start with stopping this guy. And not to beat a dead horse, but if the Eagles' offensive line was healthy, I would feel much better about that. Jack Driscoll going up against Micah Parsons doesn't.
Yeah, that scares me.
Yeah, that doesn't give me as much confidence as I would like. So that's if I haven't picked the game yet. Spoiler: I'm not picking the Cowboys. But if however I pick that game, the first factor for either team for me, the most important player in the game to figure out is Micah Parsons. And sure, he's great.
He has been great, and the Eagles are going to have to keep him off the quarterback's back on Sunday, which we'll see if they are capable of doing that. Another fan question, Matt, because I know you get a chance to talk to him on the weekend and then specifically during the pregame show. It's not overly caller-driven, but you get some in. Did you get any calls from Eagle fans who are in Arizona? Because once again, Eagle Nation has shown that they are as good a traveling roadshow as there is in the National Football League. Nick Sirianni felt compelled to talk about it after the game. Kyler Murray can't get the signals in his house because Eagle fans are that loud and proud in Arizona. You get any calls from out there from Eagle fans saying they're ready to rock the stadium?
The greatest. Oh, yeah, the greatest. And when you saw it on TV, it's not my original line. I forget if it was one of the broadcasters who said, there were people wearing red for the Cardinals and there were a whole lot of people wearing green for the Eagles. It looked like Christmas with those two colors dotting the stadium.
I stole that too, Glenn. I stole that line too.
Yeah, I won't take original credit, but I can't.
I don't know who did it though. So
but it's a good line, and it's become a thing now, and it's a great part of what we do as a fan base here, which is they travel. and they took over Washington, which isn't that hard to do. And they took over Arizona, which may not be that hard to do, but it's 3,000 miles away.
Yep.
And I think we're going to see it again moving ahead in some of the other games this year. And you hear the coach talk about it, and you hear the Eagles players talk about it. And I think it's, I don't know how the odds makers work everything out, but I think it's worth a point or two for all those games. When those Eagles fans go out there, they are directly contributing to the team winning.
Yeah, one of the biggest surprises to me was week 1. I was in Detroit. I expected it to be like last year. The Lions fans, because it was the season opener, they didn't let them take over. There were very few Eagles fans there. It shocked me.
The Lions
really
fans
did.
Yeah, I spent some time in Detroit. I have a lot of friends in Detroit, and those poor people going into the season, Lions fans thought this is the year that we legitimately can have
hyped up, man.
And
they
I don't
were
know.
Hyped up.
Yeah, maybe it's because of Hard Knocks, whatever it was. They thought finally we're going to have something. And they look every week, and every week they lose 48-34 or whatever. They're just, were they 1-4 now?
Yeah.
They changed their motif this week. Lost
got
29-0. Got shut out.
That's right. Oh, by the Patriots. That's right.
They were the number 1 offense in football, and they got shut out. You can't.
What's his name? They lost a quarterback named Zappy.
Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi.
Yeah. The Lions are still the Lions, and that's what
it's
I
still
said.
the biggest. I thought it would be 60-40 Lions fans, something like that.
It was their opener. It was their opener. And here's the other thing. And again, I lived in Detroit. Now I like Detroit. Detroit was my kids were born. I have very fun thoughts of Detroit. If you're an Eagle fan, and it's like, you know what?
Yeah,
hey,
it's not.
You say to the wife, let's do a road trip this year. Where do you want? You want to go to Phoenix? Where do you want to go? You want to go to Dallas? You want to go to Detroit? Let's go to Phoenix.
Dearborn was nice, but I'm not going up
again. I lived there and I liked it, but it's not a travel mecca.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Fair point.
Mac, I got one more question for you on the offensive side, and John's got Shane Steichen out of town by the end of the week. I
do
surprised by that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and again, maybe John and I seem to come down on the defense of Jonathan Gannon more than the Eagle fans do. If there was a coordinator I'm questioning off Sunday, it's Mr. Steichen, not Gannon. The wide receiver screen back in. I was waiting for Jalen Rager's name to be called.
Yeah, the damn bubble
so many
screen.
wide receiver screens.
Screen.
Now, was that all about?
Yeah.
I don't know. And try it once or twice, and that's great. And if they're really not working, let's move on. Let's have more complexity to the game plan than that one or two that pass. I don't know. Maybe they thought they couldn't run on them, so they wanted to develop some kind of short offense that could get going. They obviously saw something when they scouted them that they thought was going to work that didn't. But I was disappointed that when it proved not to be effective, they didn't just
just kept pounding it.
Right, well, that's because
go to something else.
That's because it was the hot read. Arizona blitzes a lot, so their hot read was, for the most part, now Jalen has some different things he can do, but for the most part, he defaulted to that quick screen. Now, the ones that were scripted early to Dallas Goedert, they worked like a Swiss watch. I mean, they were great. Then it gets redundant. Right. That was the one thing Jalen was kind of upset about after the game. Nick Sirianni kind of, I'm not going to say upset, but, he was a little bit cognizant that he was getting some criticism for that. That's the quarterback, though. He went to it too many times.
Yeah,
he went to it too many times.
Yeah, good point.
All right, so if it's a hot read and you want to put it on Jalen, fair enough. All right, the fact that it's a Sunday night game, I think you and I touched on this a little bit on Sunday when we were together on WIP. I don't like it because I'm on the air. I'm on CBS Sports Radio, so I'm going to only be able to watch intently the first half, and then I got to go to work. So that kind of stinks. You're a Sunday at 1 guy, same as me, but you do like night games. I'm not a night game fan. I'll take a 4:00 game over a night game, be it Sunday night, Monday night, or Thursday night. You don't mind the night games. That gets a good build up for you down at the stadium.
I need to clarify.
Yeah.
I like Sunday night road games.
Oh, okay.
And those are the worst for me.
I don't. Well, because you cover them.
Yeah.
I'm watching Sunday night in the basement on the Barco Lounger, really comfortable, ready to get into bed at the closing kickoff. You've got a lot more work to do. The home games, which I go to and get home Sunday night at 1 a.m. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm a whining old man. I'll go. I'll do it. I also know, after all these years as the host of the pregame show, particularly Sunday nights, more than Thursdays or Mondays, which are work days for most people start tailgating pretty early.
Yes, they do.
And when we're doing that pregame show from 5 to 8, that last hour of the pregame show, when people are coming in from drinking in the parking lot for the last 6 hours, it's a pretty rowdy set. And I've got the dump button to hit for obscenity, right? And I'm hitting that button a lot. So it's
and it's only gonna be amped up this week with the Dallas Cowboys coming in.
Hey, let me put it this way. As I'm doing the show with Ike and Reuben Frank and Elliot Shore Parks and all the usual gang of idiots, and people are coming in, the gentlest thing they'll be saying is Dallas sucks. That's the gentlest thing they'll be chanting. It will go many degrees beyond that.
I want to talk about the NFC East as a whole, because I said last week on the show, Jody will remember, I said the New York Giants stink, and they won again. So I give Brian Daboll all the credit in the world. By the way, I still think they stink, and they're 4-1. I think Minnesota stinks, and they're 4-1.
Who do you like?
That's my point. Do you believe the NFC East? Do you believe that this is a good division?
I believe the Cowboys are good. Yes. Clearly the Cowboys are going to be a playoff team. I don't think they're great. I think they got vulnerabilities, but I think they're good. Do I think the Giants are good? I think Daboll is really good. I think Barkley's having a very good season. And I think Daniel Jones hasn't screwed them up yet. So I think they're okay. I don't think they stink anymore. I thought they stunk.
Yeah, I gotta get off that word.
I might want to move off that one, Johnny Mac.
I like that word. Okay. And I give a lot of credit to Brian Daboll, but I'll phrase it this way then, Glenn. Are you scared of the New York Giants? I wouldn't be scared of that team.
No. I think the Giants can be what the Eagles were last year, 9-8, and sneak into the playoffs. That's what the Giants could be. And you know what? If they do, good for them. The Giants and the Jets, those fans up there, Jody, you're from that part of the world that haven't had a lot of success.
And the Jets are showing some life. Jody's Jets.
Yeah,
they're getting you ready to
Skylar Thompson this week down to the third string quarterback for Miami.
Hey,
I'm gonna put my brakes on my Jets a little bit. But
here's
what I'll say about the Giants.
Matt Amendola, a win is a win, Jody. A win is a win.
Yeah, I'm not going to turn it down, but I'm not going to go over the top about it either. But here's what I'll say about the Giants, and that was I had to be up, so you watched the entire game. You and I are doing a show at the same time that the game's on, so I got to pay pretty good attention to, but not perfect. Their defense is underrated. The Cowboy defense is good, and we knew it was going to be good because they have a couple star players like Parsons and like Diggs. The Giant defense doesn't have those Pro Bowl names on defense that everybody knows just yet, but they kept Aaron Rodgers out of the end zone last week. Goes down the field, knocked down a couple of passes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell the coach was thinking. I know you guys are both singing Daboll's praises. He almost screwed it up at the end the way he handled the last possession, but we'll get it too far afield if I go there. The Giant defense, beware, both you guys. They're competitive. They are a competitive, above average NFL defense. When the Eagles play both the Cowboys and the Giants, don't expect a shootout in any of those four games. I like the Eagles defense, and I like both of those two teams' defenses too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Giants, though, their defensive line has been pretty good for a couple years. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence. They used to have Dalvin Tomlinson. He used to be even better. The offense has been the problem there. Now, part of it is Saquon's been hurt, and he makes a big difference. But if we give Cooper Rush credit for winning games, we got to give Daniel Jones some credit for winning games, don't we?
Sure. Yeah, well, yeah, I think Daniel Jones was an early first-round draft pick, and Cooper Rush was a
That's true.
whatever. So to
Good
put
point.
those guys
Good point.
into the same sentence isn't high praise to Daniel Jones. I think we all agree that the conference is without a great team. I'm taking the Eagles out of the equation here. You know, if you're the Eagles looking at your opponents, there's not a team really that you fear in the league. There's teams like, you know, Dallas looks pretty good. Green Bay, I would have put there. That was a bad loss they had over there in London.
What the heck happened to the Rams?
Right, the Rams. I don't know, Super Bowl hangover. I don't know. And so there's a bunch of teams. Minnesota, I think, is better than they showed here. They're not particularly great, but they're probably good enough to make a playoffs. But there's nobody in this conference that you say, you know what, in the end, the Eagles are going to be beating this team to get into the Super Bowl, and that's going to be a tough one.
And they've got the Giants and the Cowboys 4 more times. With 5 games in, and the 5 wins are great. You still got and you got Carson coming to Philly. Oops, I almost counted that one out. That will be fun. But you got 4 more matchups yet to come against the Bears and the Giants, which should be fun. G-Mac, it's always fun with you, bud. I will talk to you on Sunday. Thanks for jumping in with us here today.
Looking forward to it. By the way, Jody, this is completely unrelated to this. I'm still in 30 seconds. You and I are both deeply involved in a TV show right now that we love. It's my favorite show of the year, called Bad Sisters. We're going to publicly predict who we think murdered John Paul. You say?
I say it's going to be the accused pedophile from across the street, the neighbor. What's his name? Roger?
Yeah,
Roger,
Roger.
the across the street neighbor?
Yeah.
That's who I'm leaning toward.
Okay, and I'm saying it's going to be the daughter with the funny name, and I'll bet you a beer on it.
Okay, you're on for a beer. You and I have betted up beers over the year. I know you're good.
I'm gonna. I
know where to get mine.
One of the stars of that show was in the show Catastrophe. I'm going to recommend that.
Yeah, the oldest sister. Yeah. The oldest sister, and she's, I think, the creator of the show. So.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. But you're right. Bad Sisters is great. Final episode is Friday.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know that I'll see it by Sunday, but hopefully we will.
Oh, you better make it by Sunday.
I will. I know. I'm busy these days, but I will. All right, guys.